before I speak, I'm going to go in the tradition of our ancestors and ask my elders, can I speak? Do I have permission? Okay. So whatever I say, if y'all got a problem with it, you got to speak to them. All right? My father, he's 79 years old, and he just celebrated his birthday in March. And he's a military veteran. He was a part of the National Guard. He had a lot of life experiences. He used to tell me about how he worked one time in a sundown town. By show of hands, how many people are familiar with what a sundown town is? Right? That means if you're black, you better get out of town before the sun goes down or you will be lynched. This wasn't a town in the South, this was Tonawanda. Right? So, one of the things, he's real proud of me and my siblings, his children, his grandchildren by our accomplishments and the things that we do. But one of the things that he's most proud of, and one of his most famous quotes, is, "I've never been a white man's nigger." That's one of his famous quotes. "I've never been no white man's nigger."
All right.
Right? The reason why he would say that is because his third great grandfather in 1786 was beat by an overseer with 100 lashes, and his ear was nailed to a post and cut off because he was protecting his wife from that overseer raping her. That was his third great grandfather, right? He was eventually sold off and the family never heard of him again. His second great grandfather, which is my third great grandfather, he escaped slavery in 1830 and made it across into Canada, right? So we're talking about Emancipation Day, 1865. A lot of my ancestors were already in Canada at that time because they escaped, right? So I'm from a different cloth of black people. I'm from a resistance cloth of black people. Not no shoe shining, grinning, being a clown black person. I'm not from that cloth. And it's important that I say that because when we're talking about emancipation, we're talking about 1865. In Texas, there were over 250,000 black people who were still enslaved at that time, right? But you had other blacks during that time that escaped enslavement. They were living free in some places. Some, like my ancestors, were already in Canada living free. You had other blacks that came over here after the Civil War or who migrated here from the Caribbean and other different places. And they never experienced the transatlantic slave trade. Right? So I know some of you think that we all look alike, but we're pretty different at the same time. And we all have very different stories. But one thing that's in common is we all got a sob story when it comes to racism and white supremacy. All of us can relate to that. Right?
Right.
That's right.
Now, when we celebrate Emancipation Day, 1865, one of the things that we're really saying is that we don't leave our people behind.
That's all right, Saladin.
It's all right, Saladin. It's all right.
Even though
Take your time. Okay.
some of our people weren't in Texas, we still honored them. Because what can happen to one of us can happen to all of us.
That's right. That's right.
And we understand that. Let me let you in on a little secret. If I go over the border in Canada and I'm walking around and I see who you may define as black people walking around and they don't look at me, I know for the most part they're not from America. I know that. Because there's no connection there. If I'm walking across the border and I see somebody looking around and we catch eye contact and we go like this, we're from America. Because we understand that if something goes down, do you got my back?
Hell yeah.
But yet you got some black people, especially in this city, who are from a different cloth of black people. They're the shoe shining, eyes bucking, clowning Negroes. That you could give them trinkets and positions and they will sell us out. So my father would teach us, I've never been a white man's nigger. He's saying, I was never a sellout. Never. Never sold my people out. But you have some of those people in this community. You have some of those people. You give them an opportunity and they will turn their back on your own people. And some people do that because during the times of enslavement, during the times of segregation, that was a defense mechanism. Maybe if I be nice to these white people, they won't hurt me as much. That ain't me though. I don't care. My father was born in 41. In 1951 in North Carolina, there was a man named Matt Ingram who got convicted for assault with the potential to rape a white woman. And you know why they convicted him? Because from 75 feet away, he looked at a white woman. This was a law called reckless eyeball. Where you couldn't even look at white people. You know what my father taught me? You make sure you look every man in the eye and give him a firm handshake.
That's right.
So I come from a resistance line of black people. Right? So we're celebrating Emancipation Day. We're saying we're not leaving our people behind. Those of you who are allies and accomplices for freedom, justice, and equality for all people. By you celebrating this, you're also saying we're not leaving no people behind. We're not leaving no people behind. And that moves beyond claps.
All right.
In the form of actionable items. I know now is a climate of photo ops and doing stuff to make it seem like there's some solidarity. Hell no. That's not what it's about.
You better say it.
It's about actionable items. It's about putting something in place to ensure freedom, justice, and equality. Not social contracts. We want something that is concrete to ensure that we're going to address these things that are going on right now. And as a city, we could be leaders of that. We could be leaders of that. And not be reactionary like we're seeing in all of these other different places. I did an interview with Spectrum News the other day, and I was explaining to them that racism is the pre-existing conditions of America, right? You know how they were saying that black people were so susceptible to the coronavirus because of those pre-existing conditions, right? America has pre-existing conditions, and that's racism.
That's right.
And if we really want healing or true health care, mentally, psychologically, socioeconomically, and all of those various different things, then we're going to have to address those pre-existing conditions, right?
Yeah.
I speak freely. So if you want to know what black people think, at least from this perspective, I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to be grinning and all this other stuff and thinking that I'm going to offend you and you're going to take a job from me, or a position like some of these black people in this community that won't be straight up with me. I am. I am. And if you want to know what it is, you got to be open to knowing what people think. You got to be open to that because that's the only way that we're going to have change. So I know that you weren't expecting, this, but it needs to be said. It needs to be said. And from this day forward, we need to start doing things to actually work together and not all of this symbolic solidarity BS. We need to do something concrete, and that is in the form of actionable items. Meeting together, putting things on paper, and doing things so that we could ensure that there's actually going to be change. And let me leave you with this right now. This fire that I'm speaking from, this is from the youth. This is how the youth feel. That's why I have a relationship with them. I strive to school them, there's an appropriate way to protest and everything and to express your points, but I understand your fire. So now if we don't do something about this and address this fire that I'm sharing with you, that's what you're going to see in all of these youth, whether they're black or white or whatever you see them as. So thank you. I appreciate all of you for coming out and giving me an opportunity to share something with you and to encourage you to do something. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you, Saladin.